opportunity to be with you all today. I really am excited after hearing all of the conversations that we've been having in the private rooms, in the lecture halls, I should say. And I really got excited and thought about changing everything I had to say today. But I think it's important that as we discuss those heavy topics, that we also recognize that each and every person that's in this room, I believe, has the potential to make a magnificent difference in our community. Before I get started, I definitely want to take the time and recognize every person that's here in these seats here, my friends and people that I highly respect in Clarksville, Tennessee. So can we just take a moment and give them a round of applause for the work that they're doing. And if you don't mind, take a moment and give yourself a round of applause for the work that you're doing as well. I am a preacher, but I'm not going to be preachy today. I'm just going to have a little bit of a conversation. I think my assignment here today really is kind of to spend the next 20 minutes or so just sharing my story, and hopefully my story will encourage you this morning. So I'll start with the fact that my mother's birthday is when Bishop Alfred is in the house, and we were just sitting here just a moment ago talking about my mom and how my mom made such an impact in this community and how she made an impact in my life. In fact, I think about her often, and I'll share with you a little bit more of why that is significant to me. Because as early as I can remember, my mother used to always tell me that I could do anything that I want to do. She told me that I could be anyone or anything that I choose to be. Now, my mother passed away about 4 years ago, but those words still echo in my heart. I believed her when I was a kid, and after all that I had been through, the rejection and the setbacks and the systemic attacks and even my own personal mistakes and poor choices, I stand before you this afternoon to let you know that I still believe those words that my mother spoke to me years ago, that I can do or be anything or anyone that I choose to be. I'm a doctor now, but my story is unlikely. It's true that I was called the smart boy when I went to school until I reached about the 4th or 5th grade. Maybe that's the same with you all. I was great in football until high school. You understand? I seem to have a natural talent for wrestling, but my lack of passion for the sport did not match the skill that God had given me. If I'd be honest about it today, not many girls liked me in school. I wore hand-me-down clothes, and I often cut my own hair. I never hung out with large crowds, and I usually only had 1 or 2 good friends at a time. If I can be very transparent to you this morning or this afternoon, a lot of teachers didn't like me either. I was often bored in school, and so when I get bored, I tend to joke a lot. I wanted to be an architect when I was a student. I had great ideas. I could draw well, but I did not like math. Besides, my high school counselor told me that I should never go to college. She thought that it would be a waste of time and a waste of my parents' money. I found no solace in the church back then. The one that I attended, in my opinion, was full of legalistic dogmatics who had no time for jobless teenagers who they assumed were sexually active. See, something about me turned off potential employers as well. Perhaps, and I'm speculating, it possibly was the low self-esteem that I had. Life has a way of doing that to some of us sometimes. On the other hand, legal authorities seem to be highly interested in me. The first time I was arrested, I was only 11 years old, and the crime was walking while black. I was arrested again around 13, and then I was arrested again around 15 years old. No charges ever stuck for any of those arrests, but life had begun to feel exhausting already as a teenager. When I was 19 or 20, I went to visit a friend in Northern California. While driving, I pulled over to get cash out of a walk-up ATM, and to my surprise, I turned around to see an officer with his hand on his weapon. He was angry, And perhaps his anger was not at me, but it seemed to me that the color of my skin offended him. He began to call me all sorts of names which I would dare not repeat in this setting, and he told me that he was certain that my mother was embarrassed of me. Out of my peripheral vision, I could see another officer standing behind a tree. His weapon was already drawn and pointed at my person. I would have likely died that night if it had not been for the grace of God and for the military bearing that I acquired. See, I was active duty military at the time this happened. So I found myself angry. I was angry at everyone, especially after that. I was angry at educators because I felt they neglected me. I was angry at women because I thought they humiliated me. I was angry at the Air Force for constantly provoking me. And I was angry at God because I felt like he was ignoring me. One day, my anger turned into pure rage, and I pulled a gun on a man because he kept calling me the N-word. Now, plug your ears if you need to, because I'm going to say some things that might be offensive, but it needs to be said. That N-word has always triggered me, even when I look back over my toddler years. There was an older church woman whom I assumed was a mentor to my parents, and she would always call me that word. She never said my name. If I cried, even at 3 years old, she would say, "Stop crying, Dad." If I fell asleep during a horrible visit to her home, she would say, "Wake up, nigga." She hated me, I felt, as a 3-year-old black boy who had done nothing other than be a toddler. So every time this man said that word, my rage grew, and it grew, and it grew until I was close enough to either blow his head off with the gun that was in my hand or beat him to death with my bare hands. I had been so engulfed in my rage that I didn't even notice the police officers that were surrounding me. So I sat in the cell that night, and for the first time in years, I prayed to God, and I asked him to reveal himself to me. I said, "God, if you are real, I need to know you for myself. I can't depend on my mom. I can't depend on my dad. I can't depend on their God. I don't even know if he's real. I don't even know if he likes me. I don't like him very much. I need you, God, to make this personal." This was my prayer. If you reveal yourself to me, I will know that you are who they say you are, and I will serve you for the rest of my life. Moments after that, my first sergeant came into the room and she demanded that they open the cell that I was in. I was still in handcuffs, and she made them take them off of me. She took me back to my barracks, or in the Air Force we call them dorms. I had to stand outside of the door as they checked my room for more weapons or ammunition, and once the military police officers left, she hugged me. My first sergeant hugged me, and she told me that she would be back to see me in the morning, but she didn't come back. So legal proceedings began shortly after that, and the love of my life who was in this room, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she went to my commander and she asked them for mercy on my behalf, and they humiliated her. Her mother and my parents were praying for me, but I still got word that I would likely do 3 years for assault with attempted bodily harm. Is this okay for you all?
Yes, go ahead.
Then suddenly something happened in my life. God tends to work in sudden moments. I received a call from my office ordering me to return to work, and when I got there, a master sergeant who was temporarily assigned to the office by the name of Sergeant Medina, he pulled me into a back room and he began to rebuke me harshly. And I was surprised that he rebuked me harshly, first of all because he was Catholic. And until that point, I had never heard a practicing Catholic raise their voice. I was amazed. He grabbed me by the shirt. He told me, "You know better." And he asked me, "What were you thinking?" Then he pulled a little book out of his cargo pocket. It was a book by a man that you all might know his name. His name is T.D. Jakes. And the book was entitled, "Loose That Man and Let Him Go." He shoved it into my chest, and then he told me to read it, and then he sent me back home. It was probably the first book that I ever read outside of school, and it was a seed for something that I believe that God was planning to do in my life. A few weeks later, I got a call from the administration again, and Sergeant Medina told me that his wife had been assigned to my case. She was a legal officer at the JAG. Then for weeks, everything went radio silent. I had no indication of what my fate was going to be until I was summoned to see my commander. who apparently didn't like me very much. My entire chain of command anticipated the worst, and as I stood before his desk, security officers stood by my side, and my commander said to me, "It sounds like you had a bad day." And he told me to stretch out my hands in front of me. I thought that he was going to put handcuffs on me or the security officers would do so. But instead, he slapped my wrist, literally, slightly, and said, "Bad boy, don't do it again." I took that as a sign that God was real.
Amen.
I looked around the room. Everyone seemed to be in shock. Their eyes were wide open. They were utterly confused. I returned to the office, and within 5 minutes, the phone rang, and it was the squadron administrator. She said, "Are you going to come up here and get your orders or what?" And I said, "Girl, don't play with me." I said, "Because if I get up there and I don't have orders, there's going to be problems." And she said, "Well, I guess you'll just have to come up here and see for yourself." When I got to that office, I realized that God certainly kept his word. He showed himself to me, and I have done my best to keep my vow to him. Do I fall short sometimes? Absolutely. Does he forgive me? You bet. One scripture that has made a tremendous impact on my life is Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. It says this, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." With that verse in mind and a bit of encouragement from my mentor and my father in ministry, I decided to go to seminary. And although my high school counselor told me to never go to college, I went and I graduated cum laude.
Amen.
Last year, I finished my doctoral in pastoral counseling with a 4.0 GPA.
Woo!
Which earned me a high distinction honor. I've been called upon to lecture at universities and government offices, and I've prayed at state capitals, and I have ministered in churches across denominations, culture, and race. I've purchased several homes since then. I've successfully raised 2 healthy and productive children, started an indigenous grassroots church, earned a 6-figure salary, have become a published author, and my biggest flex is that I have been married to the love of my life since the year 2000. I know that time is running short, so I'm getting ready to take my seat, but before I do, I thought I would encourage you with a few familiar names. You may know their stories, but I believe that they will still inspire you. These are the names of a few people who have overcome rejection. Number 1, Viola Davis. Ms. Davis faced early challenges in finding significant roles in Hollywood, but eventually became the first Black actress to win the Triple Crown of Acting, recognized for her performances in Fences and How to Get Away with Murder. Number 2, Denzel Washington. Mr. Washington experienced multiple rejections early in his career, but he persevered, leading to acclaimed roles and 2 Academy Awards, becoming a respected role model in the industry. Number 3, Simone Biles. Known for her gymnastics, she faced criticism regarding mental health in sports. Despite setbacks, she has advocated for mental well-being, inspiring others to prioritize their mental health. Number 4, General Colin Powell. General Powell overcame systemic racism and early rejection in the military to become the first African-American Secretary of State, shaping U.S. foreign policy and paving the way for future leaders. Number 5, Ms. Oprah Winfrey. Ms. Winfrey endured multiple rejections and a challenging upbringing, but went on to create a highly influential media career with the Oprah Winfrey Show, using her platform to uplift others. Number 6, Frederick Douglass. Born into slavery, he faced societal rejection but became a prominent abolitionist and orator, advocating for civil rights and inspiring movements for equality. Number 7, Shirley Chisholm. The first Black woman elected to Congress, she faced political rejection but broke barriers by running for president in 1972, remembered for her dedication to social justice. And last but not least, Barack Obama. President Obama faced setbacks in his early political career, including losing a congressional primary. However, he persevered and became the first African-American president of the United States, emphasizing hope and change. Friends, I don't know what you are expecting to hear today, but I pray something that I say will encourage you to believe the words that my mother used to say to me. that you can do, and you can be anything that you set your mind to. And if you allow me to do so, I want to tell you that my God is more than able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that you can ask or even think. And this is something that I know for sure, that their rejection is only an underestimation of who you are. When no one else knows your worth, you need to remember who you are. If no one else smiles at you, find a mirror and smile at yourself. If no one else encourages you, say to yourself, I can do anything that I set my mind to. I can be anyone that I choose to be. See, your decision to be great starts now. If you want to be a doctor, it starts now. If you want to be your own business, have your own business, it starts now. If you want to do music or play sports or lead a church or practice law, it all starts now. Where you are 5 years from now is determined by the choices that you start making today. So I want to encourage you to start being who you want to be right now. And I also want to encourage you to come see me in 5 years or less, because if no one else believes in you, I do. If no one else cheers for you, I will. But I believe that there is a village of people in here that are already ready to nurture the fruit of the seed that has been planted in your hearts and in your minds today. So we will not wait until 5 years from now. We will not wait until you've already done it. We will applaud you starting now. We will celebrate you starting now. We will thank God for you starting now. We need you. We love you. And so we're asking you now to go, to do, and to be. Thank you so much.